Blog Talk Radio.
Well, I bet you guys thought I was dead, right? Because I haven't done a show in so long. Kidding. Of course I'm kidding. I'm here. It's just been like a decade. If you guys have followed me, you already know that there's like 8,000 things going on. So before I have both Joseph and Matt come on the line, I just want to do a couple quick announcements because I've been off air for such a long time. First and foremost, I want to remind everybody that my big trip to New York City is coming this Friday. As you know, I was just there last week. Now I'm coming for my big 12-day event. Why? Because my beautiful babies are leaving for 2 weeks. So do not want to forget to remind everybody, this coming weekend, this Saturday and Sunday, Michael and I are hosting our very first venture together on the film festival circuit, which is Bedford Falls Film Festival. To those of you that may not know, Bedford Falls is literally stolen from that beautiful Frank Capra classic that I love so much. So basically we're doing 2 days of literal black and white film screenings. The very first day where it's going to be a combination, actually both days now, combination of both independent films as well as some of your favorite features. So we have a Chaplin film, we have a Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers film, we have The Train, we have I can't remember the South Street movie, the full name of it, but I'm super, super excited. As always, just like with Art is Alive, every feature is $5, every block of short films is $5. We're doing one industry panel together, and that'll be $10. So please visit us online. Go to Facebook, Bedford Falls Film Festival, June 15th, June 16th, from 3 to 10 each day. Please support us. Obviously, my beautiful, big, beautiful festival, which I'm so excited about for its third year, Art is Alive Film Festival. For all details and information, August 1st through 4th, all the screenings. We've got close to 43 screenings this year. 3 industry panels. Super, super excited about the Frank Vincent tribute movie this year, which is Gotti. Art is Alive Film Festival.yolasite.com. The other big thing that I want to announce before I forget, yes, we finally have T-shirts to sell. Right? That took like 6 months. I'm so excited. If you know, obviously Michael and I have been working on this since December of 2018. So as of right now, on the roster, we have one political humor shirt, which is his benchmark shirt, which is Wallwid, which I'm so proud of. I don't want to go there because I'll cry. So we've got that. We've got 3 T-shirts that are created to inspire your children to become actors and musicians and artists. So please check those out. And then, of course, you know my little inspirational ditties. Yes, he talked me into doing shirts. No, I have no idea why. If you follow me on social media, you know that I post 3 times a day if you're reading this now. So I decided to turn them into shirts. So the first one we have is, if you're reading this now, you are immensely incredible. I can't remember the other one. In any case, long story short, folks, buy 1, buy 3, buy 10. We have this huge campaign going on called the 50-50 incentive. If you want to know what it is, get a hold of me. If you want to buy a shirt, they're cheap. Please buy 1. Please buy 10. Michael would tell you to buy 20. www.mgfrocks.com. Please, please, please. And one more thing before I forget, and I'll get them both on the line. If anybody's interested for auditioning for Ronnie Marmo's theater auditions, you couldn't work with a better person. Go to Ronnie Marmo's Facebook page, because why? I didn't bother to look at where it was tomorrow. I'm so sorry, Ronnie. But please, if you get a chance, Wednesday afternoon, Theater 68 is looking for new actors. So please patronize him. If you don't know who he is, you should know who he is. Ronnie Marmo just did the I'm Not Lenny Bruce show. Please support him if you would. Okay, so you guys don't want to listen to me. You want to listen to Joseph and Matt. So let's get them on the line. Hello?
Hello,
is this
Cindy.
Joseph
How are
or
you?
is this Matt? I'm okay.
Joseph.
This is Joseph. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me get Matt on the line.
Oh, I'm.
Hi, Matt.
Hey,
Hi.
How are you?
Well, I'm glad to be back on her. It's been a while. It's been too long. I'm used to doing 2-3 shows a week. It's been a while. I've been pretty busy. So you guys are my first ones back for a couple of weeks. So congratulations. Thank you so much, both of you, for taking time to come on my show. I can't thank you enough. Really, truly.
Well, thank you for having us.
Oh, of course. I've heard very good things about you, and you've never been on my show before, so I'm going to give you the short 30-second version. We start talking about you guys first as people, and then we talk about you as professionals, because I think people should know who you are, if that's okay with you, because you're not just one thing. You're many things.
Go ahead, Matt.
Okay. Well, I'm going to start with Joseph.
All right.
Well, do you have a question, Matt?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. Let me go ahead and start off with Joseph. I've got a couple of different personal questions for you, and things that I know about you because I wanted to talk about a couple of different things. First of all, I wanted to say happy birthday because it's 11th today. Wait a minute. Just forget that because it was May 11th, not June 11th. So let me just say happy birthday in the past tense because I didn't know you on May 11th. So first of all, happy birthday to you. You're a resident of Ridgewood, New Jersey, and people keep talking to me about wanting to do business in New Jersey. I know nothing about it. Tell us a bit about what it's like to live in the wonderful Ridgewood, New Jersey, and how artsy-fartsy and cultural it is there. Never been there.
Oh, it's very nice. It's a small little community, 25,000 people. It's basically a bedroom community for Manhattan's financial district. People here, it's a great. My wife grew up here. That's where she grew up. That's how we ended up living here and raising our children here. It's got a great school system. It's very leafy and has a beautiful downtown area. Plenty of restaurants, beautiful parks. It's just a pleasant place to raise children. That's the reason we moved here, was because of the children and the environment here. It's very supportive. When I lost my wife, the community was incredibly supportive. I was just stunned at the outpouring of support from people. Some people we just acquaintances, and others, our friends that we've known over the years. So in that respect, I think it's a wonderful town to raise children. It has we entered the Ridgewood Film Festival in April, and we won the first prize for new web and new media, I should say, and web series. Yes.
I have another question for you. I noticed that you went to the University of Detroit and got your BFA in theater. Now, I didn't see, or I wasn't able to find anything in researching you. So have you actually been on the theater stage and performed? I was just curious.
No, actually, I got a degree in directing theater, and then I went to NYU's graduate film school. I knew I wanted to work in film, and I thought to myself, why don't you learn how to direct actors first and work with scripts, and then go make films. So that was a progression. So, theater I love doing theater. I love live theater, the intimacy of it. But film was really where my heart lied as far as, wanting to produce things and create content.
Sure, absolutely. And I know, obviously, I've seen all the various different things you've done, advertising, TV, commercial production. So I wanted to pick your brain for a second. This is the first time Michael and I are actually putting a commercial together for a product. And so I just wanted to pick your brain to say, if there was one helpful hint you could give in terms of producing a commercial for a first-timer, what would it be?
Have a very clear message. A lot of times you'll see commercials and they look great and they're, all sorts of graphics and fancy images. And, it's nice. You look at it and then you ask someone, what was it for? And they couldn't tell you because they don't know the brand. All they saw was these fun images and there was no branding. And I think the most important thing is you have to drive your message home and your branding home. Sure. And you can have all those wonderful images, but they don't mean anything if your message doesn't stick.
Right.
And that means that you have to write copy. You have to write the copy so that people remember it. Oftentimes, commercials, you see them where there's just, looks great, fun, but the art directors have superseded the copywriters, and I don't know why clients let that stuff go out, because their message gets lost in the beautiful pictures.
Sure.
Does that make sense to you?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. Absolutely. I'm 100% proponent for having a message and making sure that the message is the main meaning behind things, because I watch commercials day in and day out and I just roll my eyes like, why did you put that on television? It just made no sense to me. And really, it didn't have a message. So I agree wholeheartedly. It's just, making commercials is a little different from doing film and a little different from doing TV. So they all have their little quirky sort of things to them. So thank you for that. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And the other thing
you want to find a hook. You want to find a hook. You want to find a phrase or a hook that people will remember, and that's probably my best advice to you.
That's great advice, as a matter of fact. Thank you very much for that. And my only other question on the personal side of things is I found this journalists, of course, dig very deeply, or at least this one does. And I just wanted to ask you that you have this annual tradition called Christmas in Detroit that I thought was just absolutely lovely. So if you don't mind sharing with me, tell me a bit about how you started your annual little Christmas in Detroit adventure, because that looks very cool.
Well, what happened was with two of my buddies, one from grade school and the other from high school, we'd played in a band together from the 6th grade all the way through high school and into a couple of years in college. And then I moved to New York, after undergraduate I moved to New York. And then with family, and, we would go back for Christmas every other year. And then, probably about 10 years ago, my youngest daughter and my best friend's triplets, there are 3 of them, we would go from my parents' house in north of Detroit. We'd drive down to Detroit with the triplets and my daughter and Derek and David, my 2 buddies from high school, and we would take the girls out every night. And once a night, or how do I say it? We would go during Christmas break. We would go down there, pick an evening, and spend the evening down in Detroit, go to the Renaissance Center, ice skating, go get something to eat, go to the pastry shop at the end of the night, get hot chocolate and a pastry, and drive home. But it became an annual thing, so it just happens every year. I mean, we schedule it religiously every year. So we've been doing it for, 8 to 10 years now. It's just fun, 2 buddies and 4 girls, four teenagers. Now they're not teenagers anymore. They're 21, so now we can go to the bars with them.
That is so very cool. Thank you so much for that. That's neat. Yeah, it's nice to be able to see the traditions still stick with that, and it's even cooler that you're from Detroit, because I'm originally from Wisconsin, who's going to be transplanting to New York City in 4 years when my kids are grown. So I'm coming, I go back and forth now, but I'm here now and I'm going there. So it's very, very cool to meet somebody from the Midwestern area. So it's very nice. So thank you for sharing a bit of yourself with us. I think it's important to realize that you have things that are important to you. So thank you. So let's switch over to Matt. Oh, my God, Matt, there's so much to talk about with you. I'm so overwhelmed in a good way, by the way. I'm, on my knees right now. I'm not worthy. You are such a big deal, dude. Seriously. Do you know that?
If you say so.
Oh, my God. Have you looked at yourself? I'm oh, my God. I'm, researching you, and I'm thinking, where do I even go with this guy? I'm between the 2 of you, there's so much talent, I don't even know. I don't even know where to go with this. So I'll try to do justice with you. Well, let's see. Let's start off. You went to Southern Methodist University, and I do realize that you grew up for the majority of time in Dallas, Texas. Now, I'm headed to Texas, and people talk funny there. That's about all I know about Dallas, Texas. So tell me what I'm in for, because I'm due to be there 4 days. How do I fit in and not look like a Midwestern dork here? Because I'm very nervous about this trip.
Well, where in Texas are you going? Because it's a pretty big state.
Well, I know definitely we'll spend at least a day in Dallas. We're going to Dallas, Houston, and I think, I can't remember the name of the other one. We have dear friends living in another part of it. But Dallas and Houston are primarily the 2 places we'll be. And, Dallas is a big city. It's a bit overwhelming. I'm a Midwesterner. I've been to New York now. I guess if you can live in New York, you can go to Dallas, right? So I just want to be prepared of what I'm in for besides hot weather, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, Houston this time of year is going to be absolutely murderous. It's very swampy. It's very swampy. You tend to forget that you get closer to you're getting pretty close to Louisiana when you're in Houston.
Sure.
So just drink a lot of water is my advice to you. But Dallas is a little drier, and as far as culturally, Dallas is a food town. I mean, Dallas has some interesting cultural amenities, but it's really an eating town. And if I were you, I would just contact friends who live down there and just ask where you should eat. You should be eating basically all day. You should just be eating. Just be eating roll up for breakfast, and then then go have coffee, which probably has food there too, and then go lunch, and then by the end of the day, you fall asleep at 7. That's how you do Dallas. I always tell people it's a place where you can get you can eat like a king for very little money in Dallas.
Oh, very nice.
Yep.
I like that. We're all about the mentality of free and cheap. Absolutely love that. That's amazing. So good. I'm looking forward to it, but it's like, we got to go to Vegas too. So I'm like, I realize right now Vegas is like 100 something, and but that's, I'm like, I'm glutton for punishment. I got a birthday coming up. What the hell? I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
So let's see how that works. We'll see. Now, I know that you have 2 children. And I guess my question to you about this is this. I wanted to know how old they were, and I wanted to know if they were teenagers. And I know, Joseph, you've raised yours. I've had 2 teens already. I'm on to the next teen stage, and I love them to death, but I'm ready to kill them. So I'm just looking for some great advice here. They're both boys. They're driving me insane. I can't deal with it anymore. I'm going nuts.
Well, I have 2 kids by my late first wife. My daughter is 21 and my son is 15. And my daughter is going to college in New York and working. She's got a full-time job now, and she's finishing her degree. And my son is, here with me. I moved to Cincinnati from New York because I got remarried. And I married my late first wife's sister. Her only sister, so so I have the same I have the same in-laws that I had before, so it's nice continuity there.
Sure.
But she has 3 kids by a previous marriage, so they're all teenagers. So now we have 4 teenagers in the house.
Oh, good
which is
God.
basically it's like like you've seen the Alamo. That's what it's like. It's the child raising Alamo. Like you forget it, you're done. But yeah, it's been really interesting, and like, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't presume to give people advice on raising kids because I think everybody is just kind of muddling through and doing the best they can. But I will say that like picking your battles is important, especially if you got more than 1 kid, because like you don't have the emotional bandwidth to be trying to die on every single hill. It's like you've got to keep a sense of perspective with it. And also they just they get to a certain point where they're trying to establish boundaries and separate from you, which is a healthy, normal part of growing up. And like a lot of the antagonism that people complain about with teenagers is just normal biology, and I think it's easy to lose track of that.
Oh, absolutely. I would agree with you 150%. Yeah, I'm ready to pull out my hair, and the gray keeps coming faster, so I keep asking people, like, okay, just got to grin and bear it. It's one of those things. Yay, great, wonderful.
Indeed.
I also didn't know that you were not just a writer. Well, no one is just anything, but on top of the writing thing, you've also done directing and you've done acting. And so I was curious to ask you if you wanted to talk a bit about Home, because I know you did that film. You're the writer and director of a production called Home. And I know you've done other things, but that's the one that stood out to me. So if you don't mind, can you share a bit about that project?
Yeah, that came about because I produced. I started working as an independent producer, like really low budget stuff in the early aughts, and I decided to write and direct my own feature after working with other people, and I did it. I wrote, directed, and edited and produced this movie, which was a romantic comedy, and it all takes place at a party in a house in Brooklyn, and it's a large cast of characters, and it's like one of those Robert Altman movies from the 1970s. I called it the $1.98 Nashville, basically. And it it took a while to finish because I had a day job, but we got it into theaters, and it got some pretty good reviews. And went to DVD, and it kind of disappeared, like, because the company that put it out on DVD I think it got bought by somebody who got bought by somebody, and you know how these things work. So, but the rights reverted back to me, and I'm actually gonna remaster it and put it out on Blu-ray pretty soon. But
Cool.
But the thing that was kind of delightful about it was it came out like it's a very like I sort of modeled it on Italian, like those Italian movies from the 1950s, like people like Fellini made, like before they became kind of like crazy about dream sequences and stuff. It was like one of those low key kind of character driven Italian films, except it was in English and it was set in New York. And I thought for sure that everybody was going to immediately see what I was up to when I released it, and almost nobody did. And I felt a tremendous sense of disappointment And then years later, I found out that it has a cult following in Italy, which was great.
My God.
It was like, wow. Yeah, it was funny. And this young Italian film critic, he's like, oh, yeah, we've all seen this movie. Like, it's an Italian neorealist film, except it was made in the United States. I'm like, where were you when I needed you?
Look at that. Oh, my gosh, that is too cool. And my significant other is Italian, actually, so I'm always looking for, interesting things on the Italian side of stuff. So now I'm curious to see what this is. I bet he would probably like it.
Oh, you're going to, well,
cool.
if he has any knowledge of those movies that I'm talking about, he's gonna immediately see what I ripped off,
Very cool.
So
now
So anyway, that's my idea of a commercial. My idea of a commercial movie is something that's like, the film scholars will appreciate. Like next one needs to have superheroes in it, probably.
Oh, yeah, the superhero thing seems to be the thing nowadays. Yeah, lucky me, I get to go see Godzilla tonight. Not a superhero, but the Godzilla thing. They're making me see that.
I've seen it twice.
And? Good?
I love it.
Really?
it. Yeah. Well, I do. I actually, it's real science fiction. Like, it's loud, it's silly, it's ridiculous. There's monsters fighting each other, but it's really like it's a movie like Close Encounters or 2001 where there's actual ideas in it. Like how do we coexist with this? Yeah, these disasters that we've kind of created. Like now we have to live with them. That's kind of the subtext of the movie. So it's like it's about as smart as a stupid movie can be. Let's put it that way.
Oh, my gosh, look at that. Well, good. We'll have to see how that goes this evening. I also know that I've seen in the past some of that you've worked for the New York Times. So I'm just wondering, I've been trying to get into the New York Times to work for, forever. Should I just give up? Because I keep thinking they're going to notice me, and it's not happening. Should I just not bother anymore? I'm like, I just don't think they're annoying.
I don't know. There's no rhyme. It's very decentralized over there. That was the thing I found out. Like, I was never on staff there. I was a contract freelancer for a couple of years, but it's very much like the coverage is driven at the top by the editors in the different sections. Most of the assignments go to staff writers, and then there's a handful of freelancers who are kind of like most favored nation, and like you really got to target the individual writers, I would say. That's been my experience, and going through an editor doesn't get you anywhere because everybody on the planet is pitching editors stuff.
Of course. Absolutely, I get you. Well, the other two things that I want to mention about you is I also found out today, which I did not know yesterday, was that Split Screens Festival. I've been to a lot of festivals, but not that one, and I just missed it. So I just wanted to find out how things went this year because I see this as an ongoing thing, and I wish I would have made it. I'd love to be able to attend.
Well, Split Screens TV Festival it's a festival dedicated to the art and craft of television, and what differentiates us from other festivals is we really concentrate on how things are made, and the artistic, the creative choices that the people who make these shows do, and so if we're interviewing an actor, we're not just saying like, tell me about your latest project and how did it feel to play so-and-so? Like we're asking questions like inside the actor studio, like, how did you come up with this voice? Did you do anything with your posture, your hand gestures? What kind of discussions did you have about the wardrobe? And we're like showing slides and stuff. And we do the same thing with directors and producers and writers. Like it's a very, very kind of, I always say it's like we're a convention of magicians who are explaining how they do their magic tricks. That's kind of the concept of it. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
God,
So that's
really
just finished, and we had some good stuff there. We showed the Deadwood movie, which was 13 years in the making, and we had Queen Sugar and the new Twilight Zone and Mr. Robot and a lot of other good shows.
Very nice. I'm extremely impressed. And then you wonder why I say I'm intimidated. It's hard to talk to you. You've done so much. It's like, oh my God. And on top of which, it's insane. I mean, you have a resume like mine, which is nuts. And then I'm like, and then on top of it, you're a finalist for one of the Pulitzer Prize categories. Like, we all want to be there. Oh, my God, on my hands and knees, like I'm not worthy. How does that feel? I mean, literally, that's got to be like huh?
Well, that's how it felt to me because I was very young. I think I was one of the youngest people to be a finalist for for criticism. But I was just out of college. I was like 25, and I was writing for the Dallas Observer, which is a weekly in my old hometown, which you'll see if you go to one of the restaurants I mentioned. And my editor submitted me for in the criticism category, and I was a finalist. And the thing was, this is before the internet was really a thing, right? So it wasn't like one of these things where, like, today if something like that happened, it would be announced on Twitter and immediately my phone would have started blowing up. But that's not how it worked. And the way I found out was I was sitting at my desk, just an ordinary work day. It was the day the Pulitzers were announced, and I never in a million years thought that I had a chance. And then this editor who knew me because she'd interviewed me for a job that I didn't get, she called me up and said, "Oh my God, congratulations!" And I was like, "Congratulations for what?" And she covered, and I heard, and she covered the receiver, and I heard her say to other people in the newsroom, like, "He doesn't know." So yeah, it was kind of ridiculous in retrospect.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's all I can say. I'm floored. Holy cow.
It was for film criticism. It was like for a bunch of film reviews that I wrote.
Mm-hmm. I get you. Well, and I love doing film review. Of all the things that I write, it tends to be one of my most favorite things. There's just so much. It's so much nicer to write about creative things and technical things. It's just my personal opinion, but that's just me. So now that we have a background about both of you folks, now let's talk about the collaboration between the two of you, meaning the lucky ones. First off, I think it's important for us to talk about the fact that you started off, as I understand it, as friends and then came together to collaborate to put this together. So one of you, actually Joseph, if you would, please tell us how the two of you became friends, how you knew each other, and then at what point you knew you wanted to do this project.
Joseph?
Hello? Are we alone now? Oh, no.
I don't. Oh. I think we might have lost him.
I'm here.
Oh,
Am I here?
Oh, yeah, Joseph, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, did you hear our question or my question?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. I had just asked you a question. We were just talking about I was just doing an intro into the lucky ones, meaning that, as I understand it, the two of you were friends, and then you came together to collaborate upon this particular project. So I was asking you, if you would, to explain how the two of you met, meaning how you became friends, and at what point you knew you wanted to collaborate on this project. Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I can sort of fill in for us, but I've known Joseph for over, I guess, almost 20 years now. But his late wife Frances worked for HBO, and she was in the publicity department, and she was the person who really launched The Sopranos, and I got to know her because, you deal with publicists all the time if you're a critic or an entertainment journalist, and it's very rare that you actually have like an actual real friendship with somebody. Like usually they're just pitching you things and you either say yes or no. But in her case,
right,
she was really sophisticated and smart and cool and actually read what I wrote and pitched me things that she knew I couldn't say no to. Like, she was really, really great at her job, and one of those things was The Sopranos, which she called me up like before it had even gone on the air and said, you have to watch this show. I promise you're going to love it. She was right. And I was married to a woman named Jennifer, and who worked as a secretary at the church next door to our house, and we had, 2 kids, and in 2006, Jen died of a coronary attack, heart attack. She had an undiagnosed flaw in her heart, a prolapsed mitral valve, which nobody knew about. And it hit all of a sudden, and Joseph lost his wife 4 years after that, I believe. And yeah, is that correct?
Yeah, I think 3 or 4 years later. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had that in common. I mean,
Well, what happened was,
it's nice. We used to go out to their house, and where was it? It was before you.
No, in
moved.
Ridgewood.
It was in. It was in Ridgewood, yeah. And they had this house with this beautiful little patch of woods out behind the house that my daughter called the Quiet Forest, which I thought was charming. And so we were pretty tight. Like the two couples were pretty tight. We really enjoyed each other's company, and then this horrible thing happened to both of us, and you know.
Yeah. So Matt would call. You know, after Matt came out to the funeral for Frances, and you know, he said, you know, we got to get together. And you know, he lived in Brooklyn, I lived in Ridgewood, so it was very difficult to get together. And a few years passed, and we're back and forth. Yeah, we got to get together. And finally, one Christmas, we said, yeah, let's get together after Christmas. And we set a date. And it so happened the date in January, there was a huge blizzard in New York City and this whole tri-state area. And Matt said, oh, you want to postpone it? And he said, I can get there on the train, but, you know, do you want, you know, it might be hard for you to get in. I said, listen, I got a four-wheel drive. It's taken us how long to get to here? I'll drive in. So we drove in. So I drove in, and we went to where? Kettle of Fish? Matt?
Yeah, that was no. It was interestingly, yeah, we did go to Kettle of Fish, but we also had dinner at this place called Home. Weirdly, which is the name of my movie. I don't remember if that was a coincidence or not, but yeah, we hung out in the West Village and we talked about this experience that we shared. And
and it all came about was we were talking, and he said to me, you know, he goes, how do you throughout the conversation we were talking about our wives and dealing with stuff and how he dealt with how I dealt with it, and at one point, you know, conversation turned to just how do we feel? And I looked at him and I said, you know, I'm one of the lucky ones. I had 27 years with the most wonderful woman that I've ever met in my life. And he looked at me and said, that's so strange. He said, you're one of the lucky ones. And I'm like, why? And he said, well, I was in a bereavement group when one of my friends, an older gentleman, was with me, and I walked out and I looked at him and I said, you know, don't you wish sometimes you'd never been married so you have to deal with this? And the fellow turned to him and said, no, we're one of the lucky ones. And when I said that to Matt, he's like, that's what Marvin said to me. And so and he said, then Matt turned to me and said, you know, I've always wanted to do like a little, like some kind of show or program or something where people can do these little video tributes to their someone that was special to them in their lives. And with that, I went home, I wrote an outline, and we put our money together, and we went out and started shooting interviews of people, spouses. And then he had he showed the pilot to Frank Rich once we cut a pilot. And Frank said, you know, you should open this up to, like, everybody, because I have a sister-in-law I'd like to talk to. And with that, we basically turned it into a platform where anyone can share their story about someone special in their lives who they're lucky to have known. And it doesn't matter whether it's a friend, relative, or mentor. It can be anybody. So that's how this whole thing got rolling. And we sent it out to some networks, and the feedback was incredibly positive, but they didn't quite know how to deal with the subject matter. And then it went, we took the lucky ones, we sent the lucky ones to Roma Downey, to her production company at MGM. And she came back at it to us and said, oh, this is great. We're doing something on Fox. She's developing this whole network with Fox affiliates across the nation in the major markets where she's providing 4 hours of programming. I believe it's on like Sundays. And she wanted us to do the show there. They sent us a contract. They wanted, because she's launched a web platform, and she wanted to put these stories individually on the web platform. And the contract with MGM was just prohibitive to us. We would have lost all rights to the show and any ideas about it. So we took a pass because basically it would have been work for hire, and they could have fired us after 6 months, and we'd be standing there with nothing in our hands. So we, at the same time, we developed this web platform, streaming platform, and incorporated user content where people can submit their own videos, their 60 to 90-second video. And then we put up street stories where we interview people on the streets. So we launched this platform yesterday. It went live. And there's all these stories, feature stories that we go in and we shoot people in their homes or wherever they are, maybe their work environment, longer formats. They're like 6 minutes long, and they do an in-depth interview with the person. And then we do these little street stories, which are 60-second little stories about why someone was lucky to have had some in their lives. And then the user content, which is hopefully people will start putting up their videos and written stories with pictures. So that's really kind of how the whole thing just gelled together.
Oh, sure. Now, I want to make sure that I mention this, of course, because you had done the book, I'm One of the Lucky Ones, in 2017. So was the book first and then eventually melded into that, or vice versa, or how did that all come about?
One of the partners in our company, there are 5 of us, turned to me and said, "You need to write a book." I'm like, "Why do I need to write a book?" He said, "Write a book. It'll be much easier to get publicity and press because you'll have a book and you have all these beautiful stories, the video stories." He said, "It'll just help so much in the promotion of it." And he said, "You should write a book because your story's fascinating." So I wrote the book. My son was the editor, and he did all the copy editing because he's very good at that. And there you have it. The book is basically a companion piece to the web platform, to the streaming platform. It lets people know that all of us are lucky in some regards to have known someone, and my story just happens to be in that book form.
Well, and the other thing that I think is so neat is, let's backtrack a bit, because I, of course, filmmakers, I have a festival of my own, clearly. One of the things we talk about a lot, and neither of you can address this originally, I saw that you did a Kickstarter campaign on this. So I always like to pick the brain of the people that come on, because everybody has an opinion. So if you had to do it all over again, to people that are listening in that do these sorts of projects, would you still recommend doing a Kickstarter? Did it work for you? How effective was it? Can you talk a bit about that?
Well, we never actually followed through with Kickstarter. We actually got funding from private individuals. We got angel funding. We did everything for it. We just never activated it. We found that other individuals were willing to just invest in the company, Lucky Ones Entertainment, or Lucky Ones TV, I should say. So that was there wasn't any need. We were fortunate, I guess.
Very, very lucky.
It's very useful. It's very useful for particular projects, and it's a different vibe. Like Kickstarter versus Indiegogo or something like that. It's just a kind of a different vibe. Like Kickstarter's all or nothing. Like you set the goal, and if you hit it, you get the money, and if you don't, everybody who pledged money, it doesn't. They're not charged for it, and so it's kind of like you're making a bet, and it's more of a high pressure, high intensity situation, and that can sometimes result in higher totals. But other things that are not, like where you're kind of not sure if you're going to make it or not, going with something like Indiegogo is better. And I've actually funded a couple of projects on Indiegogo. One is a seed money to make a puppet movie, which is going to go into production this fall. And the other is a jazz album. My father's a jazz composer, and he did a 2-record set of Thelonious Monk arrangements, his own arrangements, for the 100th birthday of Thelonious Monk, and we funded the album that way, and we pressed it on vinyl and everything. And that's like a thing where, like, whatever money you raise, you get to keep it. You're not setting a goal and trying to exceed it. So sure. different tools for different jobs, I guess.
You bet. And there's nothing wrong with having a lot of tools in the shed, clearly, especially because making these sorts of projects cost money in filming, and I don't think people really realize to the extent of how much you have to dedicate to put into it, of course. I saw the notation and I wanted to have one of you speak about this, because one of the people that was actually featured in your film had passed away, Gina Orturo. I don't want to say her name wrong. But I thought you might give us a little hindsight on who she was and a bit above and beyond what's in your production, obviously. Tell us a bit about Gina.
Well, we met Gina while interviewing. She was one of the interviewees for Norm O'Connor. And interestingly enough, the wedding I'm going to in Texas this weekend is with Norm's younger brother, Marty. Marty's getting married. And Marty and I were friends in college. Friends in grade school and high school. And his brother Norman passed away just after he retired from from working at a men's halfway house in Patterson. He'd moved to Colorado, was biking, doing all sorts of things, started a new life, and died 2 weeks later. It was kind of tragic. So Marty called me up because Marty knew about this project and said, Norm passed away. And I'm like, you're kidding me. So we went to interview a couple of Norm's friends. One was the fellow that he worked for at the halfway house, and the other was Gina. And Gina was a friend of his a bar patron. They hung out the same bar, Rossi's Tavern in Clifton, New Jersey. They hung out, there, and then they would go on vacation together and do all sorts of fun stuff. So Gina wanted to do this interview, so we interviewed Gina, and then about 2 months later, Gina died of a heart attack, just unexpectedly. She got an infection, and next thing you know, boom, she was dead. We were shocked. We were just shocked. So we put a little tribute at the end of Norman's story, in memory of Regina. It was kind of sad. But, they were good friends, and they're together now.
Right, absolutely. I also note one of your interviews, the notation indicated it turns out it was Christopher Reeve's private nurse. Did you know that, or did you happen to come across that?
No, that was part of the Lucky Ones street stories. We were just outside interviewing people, and we said, I approached the gentleman, I approached Bill, and I said, is there someone you'd like to talk about that you're lucky to have known? He said, yeah, Chris Reeves. I was his private nurse. I'm like, okay. So we did the interview, and it turns out that, I was thinking about this yesterday because I was doing something with that content. I was thinking, yeah, you would get to know someone very intimately if you were their private nurse. I remember when I was sick, how well I got to know my doctors and the nurses, and Christopher being in the position he was, you're dependent on that nurse, and then you become very intimate. I mean, that person is going to bathe you. They're going to help you get dressed, and so that bond became very special between Bill and Chris. And I think I think it kind of shows. You could tell Bill's a little reserved in a manner when you watch the interview, but you still get the sense of how much he was impacted by this man's determination to live, survive, and how he treated other people, even though the condition he was in was debilitating.
Absolutely. And I like the fact that you're not limiting it to one source, meaning that we're going to sit down and just record these people. Like you said, you're doing street sources, and you're taking submissions from outside sources, I'm guessing strangers. And apparently, as I understand it, you have an intention to travel. So have you guys sat down and thought about, okay, so we're here now, so at a certain point, let's go state to state, city to city. Is there a game plan in terms of how you plan to continue to capture these?
Well, we're going to go to different cities too. Like, we'll probably end up going to Cincinnati. We're going to do some in Detroit. People already lined up. We'll do them in different cities because we want a different geographical feel of the culture of the people. And at the same time, when we do those, so if we fly somewhere to do 2 feature stories, then we'll spend a day doing street stories too in that same locality. So we'll get both, and that's how we plan on doing that.
Nice.
One of the things that was the impetus for this was that I think there's a perception among some people that you don't want to talk about an experience like this, like the idea that if you're talking about somebody who is gone, that it's an inherently painful experience. And I think, and in the United States particularly, and there have been whole books written about this, it's almost like we treat it like it's an infectious disease that has to be contained. Like we don't talk about it, and don't bring it up; it'll only upset them, and that kind of thing. And like, I never found that to be the case. Like, I never found that I didn't want to talk about Jen. On the contrary, I could talk about her all day long, and that was one of the reasons why the two of us would have these conversations, because we like to talk about our late wives and not feel like we're making anybody else uncomfortable. And that's one of the reasons why I sought out a bereavement group early on. And it's not a painful thing. It's not a traumatic thing. Like even surprisingly quickly, it became a comfort to me. And I think it is for other people as well, and that's the real reason for doing this, is because to kind of remove the prohibition, remove the stigma, and make it more of a celebration and an ambiguously positive experience.
Yeah,
Sure.
which we find when we interview people. One of the things they say to us is, "Thank you so much." We're like, "Oh, you're welcome," and you can tell in their inflection what they mean by that thank you. They mean that the thank you is, you allow me to celebrate the continuing bonds I have with someone that I hold dear to my heart. And I think that's the most important thing. Like Matt says, none of this is about grief or mourning or death. It's all about celebrating the fact that this person was in your life, and I think that's one of the most important things that people understand about this, is that it is in fact life affirming stories, and they express our common humanity. We've all experienced loss in our life, but this is a positive way to remember someone, and I think that's what the core of this is, that it's a celebration of the continuing bonds we have with those that we've lost. It's really quite a simple concept, and you find that when people talk in the interviews, they're happy. They're not sad. I mean, some people do get a little emotional, but most people are just very happy to recall all the fond memories they have of these people, and it becomes a tribute. And I think that's what's special about it. There's no other platform, there's no other outlet that exists where people do this. And these stories are fascinating. Like I said, fellow and Christopher Reeves, we just bumped into him. But there's people from all walks of life that tell stories about their cousins or their uncles, and they're just fun. They're just fun stories. So that's kind of where, that's always been our objective, is to, like Matt says, destigmatize talking about someone who's passed away.
Yeah, and these folks exist. They exist in a perpetual present. It's not like there's a statute of limitations on appreciating them. And I go to visit, when I go to Dallas, I go to visit my father, who's almost 80 years old, and he tells stories about his mother, who died when he was 15, and his dad, who lived to be very old. Like, his dad lived, I think, to be close to 90, and my mother tells stories about her great-grandmother, who died in 1961 and crossed the prairie in a covered wagon, and like these are people who, they still live in our heads, and sometimes we think about them, we talk to them, and it's a completely normal, healthy, affirming part of life. And I just think being able to encourage people to embrace that is healthy, ultimately.
Yeah, well, it's something interesting that we found when we've been doing these street stories. You would think that when we started this, we thought, well, our demographic would be women 35 to 65. It turns out when we do these street stories, people under 30 are the most willing to share their stories. I would say 70% of the interviews are people under 30 saying, yeah, I've got someone, and they just go right into it about their friend or their sisters. It's just amazing to us. Their grandparents. They're so open to it. So we thought to ourselves, we were surprised by that, because we thought that would not be the case, and it turns out that it is the case. Older people tend to want to sit down and do a longer format interview because it makes them feel more comfortable. But people under 30 are like, sure, okay, and then they send us pictures, and we incorporate pictures and what have you. But it's we were delightfully surprised by that. So when these little 60-second videos that we do, the man on the street videos, they go out we send them out on our social media platforms, our channels, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Lucky Ones TV, and then we drive, then we have a call to action, go to luckyonestv.com to see more videos. And once one of the videos runs on social media, then it gets posted to our streaming platform, so that anyone that missed it can see it, and fills out our library of content. So that's kind of what we've been doing, and it was delightful to have younger people participate.
Oh, I bet. Well, you also provide a chat forum right on the website, as I understand it, so people can go on and speak to one another, and I assume that that's quite therapeutic as well.
I don't, we haven't. Yeah, the chat. Yes, it's there. It's. We'll see what happens there. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work out. We'll see. It's all trial and error when you do something like this.
Sure.
We're going to probably do a blog at some point. And eventually, we'd like to have Matt do a podcast for us, so we can do great radio interviews, just short 10-minute interview. Tell us about why you're one of the lucky ones. Who are you lucky to have known? So it's evolving, and as we grow, we'll, things will change, and we'll figure out what works and what doesn't work. But right now, this is where we are. I don't. I eventually think that we'll be in other countries. I mean, we would like to take this to Europe, Asia, India, Africa. I think it's South America. I think it's something that's universal, and different cultures approach dealing with death in different ways. Our culture is pretty much Anglo-Saxon, so we're pretty uptight about it. Other countries, other cultures are not quite as. Well, they don't look at it as a taboo, kind of. I guess you'd say. We're here.
They don't have the same. They don't have the same hang-ups.
Yeah. They got different hang-ups, but this isn't one of them. Put it that way.
Yeah. Right.
Very well put.
Yes.
Yes.
So everyone, but it is something that is universal, and we want to see Lucky Ones TV go across the globe because I think it's a fascinating way for people to tell stories. And I think, when we look at this for a streaming platform, we thought to ourselves, we kept reading articles about advertisers and sponsors just freaking out about the content they're associated with and how they're pulling away from YouTube and they're pulling away from different places because the algorithms, the computer's just throwing up an ad on their ad into content that they don't want to be associated with, and advertisers, marketers are looking for content that they want to be associated with, and so that's why we started our own streaming platform, and we will eventually get the sponsors and advertisers that fit us, like Ancestry.com or whatever it is, but something that makes sense to what we're doing and that fits into the kind of mentality that we're about. So that's the plan. That's the long range plan.
Gotcha. No, I understand. And I guess the obvious question that I wanted to ask is clearly because you spend such a significant amount of time celebrating this bond and continuing to maintain this closeness. So if I were to ask both of you, if you could share with me, or I should say your listening audience, tell us about your own loss, your own lives, and one thing that you preserve their memory in. Meaning, have you done a video yourself yet? Because I couldn't clarify whether you guys have done your own videos on your own spouses or not.
No, neither. Well, we originally, when the first day we shot, someone canceled on us, and we both did interviews, but they'd have to be done over. They were just kind of fly by the seat of your pants interviews. They weren't. But eventually, I think we should probably sit down and do an interview, or at least do some kind of interview together where we explain, what it is we're doing and why we're doing it and how it came about.
Oh, absolutely, certainly. And obviously, we'd like to know about your own lives, the spouses that you've lost. If there is something you could tell us about them, if you could condense it in one or two sentences, what would you tell us? I know that's hard.
Well, I've written a fair amount about Jennifer over the years, and there's a piece, and probably one of the most read pieces I've ever written is a thing called All the Things That Remind Me of Her, which is written on the occasion of what would have been her 40th birthday, which was in 2010, and it was about all of the music and movies and television shows and things that she loved, and how I didn't want to experience those for a while because it was painful, but then eventually I reconnected with them. But mostly I associate her with Disney because she was really into Disney, and she was like a student. She had a very weird an interesting attitude about Disney. Like, it wasn't all just like, oh, fairy princesses and magic, and I love it. Like, that was part of it, but it was more like Walt Disney as an architect of popular culture. She had like shelves of books on Walt Disney, and she knew all this stuff about the construction of the parks. And we used to go to Disney together as a family, and she'd studied the lines, like the relative waiting times of all the different lines and all the different parks, and she had figured out this schedule where basically if we went at a certain time of day, we wouldn't have to wait more than 5 minutes in any of the rides. And it was nuts, and it was like in a science fiction movie when somebody discovers a wormhole that allows them to travel from one side of the galaxy to the other instantaneously. Like, I heard other families like getting in these tremendous fights with each other, like, we've been waiting 45 minutes of this ride, and like that never happened when Jen was in charge. So that's what I think of whenever I go to a movie that's released by the Walt Disney Company, when they show that opening logo of the castle and it da 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 da, I go, oh, Jen.
Aw, so sweet. And as far as for you, Joseph, what could you tell me about your wife?
My wife was probably the smartest person I've ever met. I was attracted to her because of her intellect. Not to mention that she was a beautiful woman. When I first met her in an elevator, and I made a comment about her jacket, and she kind of blew me off like, I am not a Broadway gypsy. Because she was wearing a coarse-line silk jacket, and I thought she was a dancer. And she's like, I'm not a Broadway gypsy. I'm like, oops, okay, this is not going well. And it was a long elevator ride up. And then we happened to be going to the same apartment just by coincidence. And I don't know, it was fortuitous. So we went in the apartment, we started talking, and I said to her, so what island are you from? Because I knew enough not to say, hey, are you from Jamaica? Because that's just like stupid. You know, it sounds so like you don't know anything about the world. And she said, I'm from Grenada. And I said, oh, you have a communist prime minister, Maurice Bishop. She says, how do you know? I said, well, I read a lot. And then that's how we started talking. And we were intellectually compatible. She had a mind like a steel trap, and Matt could attest to this. You never won an argument with Frances, did you, Matt?
No.
No.
I mean, in my mind I did, but the fact of the matter was no, because there were actually times where like it would seem like I felt like I had won, and then 45 minutes later the phone would ring and she would have additional information that complicated whatever my assertion was.
Yeah.
It was like on the installment plan. It was like arguments with her were on the installment plan. Like they would unfold over long periods of time, and it's like there was one time where she called me back like a month after we'd argued about some movie, and like a month she's like, I thought of something else. I'm like, I didn't even remember discussing this with you. I mean, that's how tenacious she was.
Yeah, she was fun. She was fun to be. When she walked in a room, everyone wanted to know who she was. She was just kind of that kind of persona. She just walked in the room and she owned the room. It was amazing to watch. You know, I had people come up to me and say, "Oh, I don't know how you ever got her," and you know, "Oh, you'll never." And I'm like, "Yeah, whatever. You know, whatever, dude. See ya. Good luck." You know, because there was guys always trying to hit on her, and she would just smile and give me a look across the room, and I knew exactly what was going on. But she was my soulmate. You know, she intellectually, physically, and spiritually, we were one. Well, I like to say we were two sides of the same coin, which kind of makes, you know, we're one, but we're different. And that's kind of how I sum up my relationship with Frances. It was 27 years of wonder, and I was graced by God to have had that. So I don't look at her death with any kind of bitterness. I mean, I was able to actually hold her in my arms when she passed away. So it was quite special. I mean, I'll forever be thankful for that.
Oh, my goodness.
That's what makes me one of the lucky ones.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Yes, you betcha. Some of us are very lucky in life, and some of us are lucky. Well, even just the ability to be able to recognize these beautiful things about the people that were in your life, even though they have passed on, it's just in and of itself is not the easiest thing to do. So I commend the both of you on that. It's very difficult to try to look past, you know, at the significant loss of people that are very special to you, and you're doing something that's very special, obviously. If people are listening right now, and let's say, for instance, they have a story about being a lucky one, what's the easiest way? Do they just go to the website? Do they approach you? What is your process for that?
Well, what we do is they go to luckyones.tv.com. They register to submit a video. They can submit their own video, or they can contact us. There's an info or contact, and they can contact us and say, listen, I'd like to do an interview, a long-format interview. They can, and we would respond. What we'd like to do, though, is, when what we kind of thought we'd do is when we have these little shorter ones, when we see someone that we really think has an interesting story, we'll go later on and we'll do a longer format interview, like a 6-minute interview with them. So,
Gotcha.
But the easiest way for people is to go to luckyones.tv.com and upload their own video, watch our videos, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Lucky Ones TV. We made it as simple as possible, for people. They can also they can submit their written stories. Now, some people didn't want to do videos, and they submitted written stories with pictures, and then we put the pictures interspersed into the story. So it becomes, because some people just don't have the means or don't want to do a video. Younger people, I assume, will do more videos, only because that's what they do all day long, is make videos. Yeah.
More and more and more and more videos. Oh, my gosh, absolutely. And as you mentioned before, you were the winner at Ridgewood Guild International Film Festival. So my question to you is, now, are you going to continue on that path? Because I know some people take their projects and ride the wave of the film festival circuit for a while. Is that your intention, or
no?
Well, part of your intention?
Partly. I mean, we've entered a couple festivals. We did so just to try to get some recognition. And if we won, that's great. It's great for us. It lets people know that actually this is something you might want to watch. But we weren't concentrating on doing the festival circuit, only because we were more concentrating on launching the site and driving traffic, getting people to come and to watch the videos.
Sure. And have you found that you're getting how is it being received? I guess that was my only other question.
Well, we only launched yesterday, so I don't know. Well, we only launched yesterday, so I have no idea.
Look at that.
We literally the site went live yesterday, so we'll see.
Very cool. Yeah,
hopefully
absolutely.
people follow us on. Yeah, and if people follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook at Lucky Ones TV, then they'll see some of the content. Right now, we're doing a series of one of those street interviews. We first do a picture with them and some kind of caption, and the second day we're doing a quote that they had, and the third day we run the video. So we're kind of doing like a little series right now, and then we have all these wonderful outtakes that we've done. We call them, they're cut downs, but they're wonderful. Like people talking about, it would be like 3 people talking about why they're lucky to know someone, or their family, how their family dealt with this, or their passions, what they learned, nicknames, because people give you all sorts of information, and then you can make these little videos that we put out on Instagram. They're just fun. Like one guy talks about his mother gave his wife a cookbook as a wedding present. Just insane, and how insulted she was. And those are, how do families get along? So that was in part of that series. So there's a lot of fun content that we put out there for people.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Well, I can't believe it. It's been an hour. Can you believe this? This time goes so quickly on the show. There's always so much to talk about, and I think we've done a wonderful job of trying to cover everything. It's going to take me a half an hour to literally read all the places to find you, by the way, because you guys are listed like everywhere, which I'm about to get to. I wanted to let both of you know that about 2 hours after this episode gets finished, it becomes archived. So what happens is I'll send you guys a copy of it, so this way you have it for promotional purposes. I also load it up to my YouTube channel, so this way people obviously will be able to view it, or, as far as a different sort of audio file. So it'll be on both places, as a matter of fact. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off an entire list of every place to find the both of you, every place, not just the lucky ones. And I think I've covered everything, but I'll read everything off. When I get done, just let me know if I've missed anything. But hopefully I think I've got it all. The website is luckyones.tv.com. It's same name, Lucky Ones TV, on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. As far as to the books, for both of you. We're talking Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Smashwords. Obviously, you are both on Facebook. You are both on LinkedIn. You are both on Twitter. There's also Vulture.com, RogerEbert.com, New York Magazine. Let me see. I'm trying to think if I've missed anything else. Oh, yes, of course, Wikipedia, IMDb. We've mentioned Facebook already. Any other place where people can find you?
You said LinkedIn. I think that's it.
I think that kind of covers it. Thank you.
Yeah, you covered it all.
Well, I try very hard. When you're a journalist, one of the things that people are always watching are, did they catch this? Did they catch this? So I always try to make sure that I'm completely and 100% thorough. Oh, I forgot to mention, the gentleman, their two names, Joseph, last name Alvaro is spelled Alvaro, and then, of course, Matt's got three names, and Matt is Zoller, and then Seitz. I also don't want to forget to mention Hillary Herskowitz, because without her, we wouldn't all be together. Hillary was one of my favorite people in New York City, period. I love her to death. She always brings wonderful clients to me. So once again, she did not disappoint in recommending the two of you to come onto my show, because you're both absolutely lovely. If you've ever been on my show, which you haven't, you automatically should know that I'm always surprising people with things. So the one thing that I thought about today that I could give or try to give to the both of you, because obviously you're building and generating and giving something to people all over the country eventually that will touch their hearts and give them something happy to think about when they consider their own loved ones. So I thought that I would kind of help to facilitate your process. For one, I've put you on my show, and I have a nice large base, so that's getting you some exposure. However, you may or may not know this, but I am the founder of a film festival, and one of the things that Hillary mentioned to me was that you did one film festival, and I do have a festival coming up in August. And so I thought that I would consider asking you two gents if by some chance you would welcome the idea of doing and putting your series as a special screening for my festival this year.
Sure. Did Hillary send you the link to the pilot, to the half-hour pilot?
Yes. As a matter of fact, she did, and I viewed it, and I took a look at it, and I said to her, let me just mull this over, because I literally just put my programming together very recently, as a matter of fact. And so, I just sat and I mulled it over, and I thought to myself, they're coming on my show. Let's just ask them and see what they think. And if they say yes, great, and if they don't, I'll just try to find another way to support them.
No, we would love to do that. That'd be great.
Oh, awesome. That wasn't that hard at all whatsoever. And no, we'll get the details together after the fact and all that good stuff, but I just kind of wanted to generate interest, because I thought, if you have a project and something such as this, it's always nice, and you guys know this, obviously, you want to pick 17 forums, not just one, by way to get your stuff out. And I knew that you had just launched the website, and I thought, never hurts to add a couple extra places to get exposure, and my festival is always one of them, and it's who doesn't want to do that, right? So I'm like, we'll just see. So, I'll be in touch as far as that goes and such. I want to thank you on behalf of probably all these people in different places that don't get a chance to do so. Thank you for the work that you're doing, and thank you for the contribution that you're giving to people that have lost loved ones. Believe it or not, most people never get a chance to hear the words thank you, but you're doing something substantial and significant, and I'm sure you know that. But congratulations on everything. Please don't be a stranger, by the way, too. Always, I write for a living, and I have this show. If you need something, come back anytime, and then hopefully we can orchestrate for the festival.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Of course.
Cindy, I have a quick question. We're just sending out an email to all of our, we have like 6,000 on our mailing list. And I put in that we're going to be on your podcast, your Cindy's Corner. Yeah. And I just want to make sure that the URL I put it's blogtalkradio.com or Cin's Chat Corner. Is that correct? And they would be able to find it there, the podcast?
You betcha. Yeah, just as long as you hyphenate it. So you've got the CINS, then a hyphen, then a chat, then a hyphen, then a corner.
Oh, yeah.
Just put the hyphens in between. Yep, that's me.
Oh, yeah, they're there. Mm-hmm. But I just want to make sure. So when this goes out, the link will be with it. And this way, and it says on demand, so that they'll be able to go there and listen if they like. Perfect.
Yeah, it takes about 2 hours, like I said. Give that about 2 hours of time, and you're all good.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Cindy, so much.
Oh,
Thank you
no
very
problem
much.
at all whatsoever. Oh, of course, guys. Thanks for coming on, and we'll be in touch shortly. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
All right, you too.
All right. Take care, guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Yep, bye-bye.
What a wonderfully touching hour, wasn't that? I just want to remind everybody again, their names are Joseph Alvaro as well as Matt Zoller Seitz. And again, one more time, the website is luckyonestv.com. And then on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, it's Lucky Ones TV. They are on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Smashwords, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. As far as on Matt's side of the fence, you can see some of his written work on RogerEbert.com as well as Vulture.com, and also, of course, on New York Magazine. And we also don't want to forget the Wikipedia page, along with Twitter, in case I forgot, and IMDb. One more time, Hillary, my gosh, I couldn't have done this without you. Thank you a million times over. Thank you for helping us out with this. Thank you guys for listening in. I have one more show tomorrow because after that, of course, I have to head to New York City on Friday, and I have graduation on Thursday, and oh, my gosh. So thanks so much to my listening audience for everything and just for being here, tuning in, listening, etc. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.